We'll go to the Australian next, where the headline is US warns Solomons on China. The story goes, one of America's top foreign policy makers has warned Solomon Islands Prime Minister Manasseh Sogavare that China will become his country's owner and minder if he pushes ahead with a security agreement with Beijing. US Senate Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Bob Menendez said it was not in the interests of the US, Australia or the Solomon Islands for a Chinese base to be established in the Pacific nation, and Mr Sogavare needed to understand what it means to all of us if there were to be a pathway forward, or if that were the pathway forward. Now, this, of course, comes from an interview that was done by Sky's Tom Connell. We'll have a look at that now.
In the Solomon Islands, because I think it is both in the Solomon Islands' interest, Australia's interest, the United States, to ensure that there is not a Chinese base there.
Now, Erin, we've been talking about this sort of ad nauseum recently. We were talking about it last night on this program. But we need to be seriously concerned about this potential deal between China and the Solomon Islands. I mean, we are talking about potentially paving the way for a Chinese military base very close to our country. The question I posed last night to Gideon Rosner was, how did we not see this coming? Now, I know we're sort of beyond that now, but what do we do from here to make sure it doesn't happen?
Well, we have been very distracted by other issues recently, particularly in the defence and security and foreign affairs space. So we've had the Ukraine and Russia issue has had our attention. We've had our eyes on what's been going on in the South China Sea, but we've kind of forgotten about this China issue. We've forgotten about what this actually means for Australia to have a military base so close by. But it is understandable with this crowded space, with so many issues that we have had going on. It's completely unsurprising that the United States has said this. It is critical that Australia is out there now during caretaker mode and sending these other messages to Australia, to the Solomon Islands as well. And we need to work with the islands, states as well, to make sure that this does not go ahead. It's unsurprising that the US has brought this to our attention, but and something has to be done. And I think the government has taken the right steps, despite the fact that we have taken our eye off the ball when it comes to China.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of feels like we're on the back foot a bit, which is unfortunate. But this is not something new. I mean, China's been going around essentially buying up small Pacific nations and islands for a long time by lending them money. I mean, for heaven's sake, China's going to come along and knock and want that money back at some point, isn't it? Or it's going to want something in return.
Well, look at what's happening in Sri Lanka right now. A big part of the problem with the economy there, among many issues, is the fact that the country owes so much money to China and can't make its debt repayments. This is the debt trap diplomacy at play with what we've been talking about. And now you've got food shortages, fuel shortages. People are dying waiting for these things. So these are the consequences if we end up with these kind of problems on our doorstep. And absolutely, it's a security issue for Australia that we should be worried about. But China's been looking at the Pacific Islands for a long time. This is why we have Pacific Step Up.
Yeah.
And China wanted to build subsea cables through the Pacific across to Latin America as well. These are not new issues, and it is incredible that it's got this far, and we absolutely need to put our attention back on it again. So I think that this warning from the United States it's unsurprising in the situation, but it's something that we do have to focus back on again.